and one. And I brought one over to, the primary school
Oh, great,
in Rumsey. And
yeah, thank you.
the hickory stick.
You know what, I thought maybe gunnery too.
I think Michelle was gonna bring it to Gunnery.
I
Did
think
you bring that?
Did I
You
tell
were
you?
gonna bring that to the Gunnery. You said,
I know, I brought up the newsletter and I brought up the postcards. I mean, the article with the information was in the newsletter.
okay,
No, I asked, this goes back before Becker left, this was in January, Jimmy Britton and I had met, he wanted to talk to us about the fact that they were having trouble attracting good young teachers because they wanted to own up.
yeah,
So maybe we drop on those or they're.
yeah, definitely.
But he, he moved on and that was at the end of the contact. Hi, Woody, how are you? Good to see you.
We have two guests online. I don't
Henrietta,
see
good to see you as well.
Charles or Daryl. Did you hear from them?
I did not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not sitting. Kind of all these piles.
Nice to see you, Woody.
Piles of paper. It's just for your information if you wanted. It's all stuff happening.
Is this the community watch party? Is that the one they did in the fall with the mojitos or? Or this is different?
It's a different one. But Abdo is gonna be there with his mojitos at the
Oh, he
arts,
is?
at the Arts Council, but the tent is gonna be over by Marty's.
Okay.
And I indulged quite a few of those.
It made.
Oh,
the
can we have our
paper.
table over that way?
Next to them, it's 5:30, so I might have.
What was his name again?
Abdo.
Yeah,
Ballister.
he was a character. I
quite
loved him.
popular.
He is a character. He's fantastic.
I said that was
Great,
quite
great member of the
popular.
Arts Council.
Well, we do have a quorum since we have three of us here. Doesn't take much to get a quorum. And thankfully, we have Bill here again. It is so important. So, did you get a chance to look at the minutes?
Oh. Read. Are we expecting the others?
I didn't hear from them. They were not coming. I didn't hear that they were coming either. So, we had the motion to approve the $9,000 for, the additional testing at Wickham. Have you needed to use that? Have you needed to get it?
Linda Gomez called me on Friday or Monday and said, I have a check for 9,000 for you.
Okay, yeah,
And I went, yeah, I remember 9,000 for something, so I picked up the check and took it to Priscilla, but that was for all the additional testing that had. to be
yes,
done.
for Wickham.
Yeah, so we have the check,
Okay,
we did get it.
Okay,
Thank-
just wanted-
and thank you, I forgot
Yeah.
all about it.
okay. Have you got a chance to read it, Woody?
I'm coming down the home stretch.
Okay, it was sent through an email, thankfully, thanks to Michelle. Did you get it? Did you get that?
I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
I think I sent it like Thursday, like late last week.
Probably Thursday afternoon,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, before I left.
I move the approval of the minute.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor of the minutes? Aye, okay, so that is unanimously accepted. All right, so, update on the Baldwin Hill property. I got to get out of my car and walk up there with Bill and numerous other people.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting to see where this new house is gonna be. It's gonna be a nice place for someone to live. So do you want to give any update on that?
Yeah, let me quickly do that, so, I'm gonna go from the April minutes here, just so I don't go back further. We're getting a $200,000. It's a forgivable, it's a mortgage, but it's a forgivable mortgage. It'll turn into a grant, and the construction loan of $235,000. So we're hoping that will close Friday. It's based on the insurance company coming up with the builder's risk insurance by Wednesday, tomorrow. So that's in the process. As Judy mentioned, we had an on-site meeting with the engineer and Greenwoods, the company doing all the site clearing and driveway. So a couple of wrinkles came in as they were doing the driveway. They hit a spring, so we got a spring that's coming out. So we got to deal with that. And then when I met with Jimmy Brinton and Kevin Smith, the highway superintendent, they recommended putting in a 12 to a 15-inch culvert. Well, when they went to dig in the culvert, there's already a culvert under there, and the town, apparently, I don't know how many years ago, but they had put in drainage on Baldwin Hill. So we located the drain that's there. Mike Alex is coming out to put that on the map, and then we're going to seek permission, which we should get, to tie into the that culvert rather than having to put enough, because there's not enough room for clearance for the pipe on top of the other pipe. So that's in the works. I saw Lindsay Larson had been in touch with Mike, and Mike responded that he was going to go out and get that done. So that's good.
Oh, good.
The site work is substantially done, as Judy had mentioned. They've cut most of the trees. I think pretty much there was one tree there that
It was questionable.
Yeah, because the roots are very close to where they're doing the excavation. We got the quote from the well driller and the firm that we used at the Vincent Farm for installing 2 new wells and all the the pumps, tanks, and everything there. Trying to think what else. So we got a notice about the doing the ground lease, and I had done the ground lease with and the restrictive covenants on the Vincent Farm, and so I'm hoping that, and that cost $15,000 for the firm, the outside counsel for Department of Housing. So I thought, well, they never sent me like flowers or chocolates or anything for doing it, but anyhow, so I'm hoping that we can go through and just use the same ground lease, because I'd like, as we do these projects, I don't want to have different ground leases for every project. I want them all to be the same.
Yeah.
What exactly is a ground lease?
So we own the property,
Right,
and then we lease it to
the homeowner.
the homeowner. So, so that has, specific requirements in terms of, what they're responsible for doing, keeping up the property, et cetera, et cetera. And then the ground lease incorporates restrictive covenants that provide, I think for this one, it's 80% of area median income. Or no, it's up to, is it 100? No, I think it's 80, isn't it? I think whatever it is. But
Well, it said one up
I think up to 100%.
below 100%.
Yeah, right. So the restrictive covenants will have that inserted into it. The 3 we did at the Vincent Farm were 60, 80, and 100. So that's in the works. Trying to think if there's anything else there.
Well, we have this flyer.
Yes, and the flyer has gone out, and
Supposedly the deadline for applying is June 24th. It's gonna be before the community block party, but we talked them into, let's make it the June 24th.
yeah, and I think Lindsay had said when we were meeting Judy that they had at least 3, they thought pretty qualified applicants, but that had to do the follow-up from the pre-application.
Right,
And hopefully, some local people will take advantage of
let's
this.
hope, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. So I think that's pretty much it, but any
But
questions?
the 3 applicants currently are just from what, Litchfield County in general?
Who knows?
We don't know. Yeah,
Don't have to.
They don't have to be from
Yeah.
Washington.
right. Yeah, and then,
And if they all qualify. Totally, they have pre-application. And then they go to the regular application. If they if three people, qualify, then there's gonna be, a lottery, basically.
Yeah, so they'll have a
So
draw.
it's not like, there'll be any like, input that we'll have, or, and I think that's good. I mean, at least it's fair.
Maybe Judy, you can be the one that pulls the thing out, so
Now,
the
maybe I
people
shouldn't.
that don't get it will know where you live.
I know.
Nice, Bill.
No, thank you.
Any other questions on that, anybody can think of? I think that pretty much covers it, and then,
Is there anybody in
yeah.
on Zoom that has any questions? Oh, okay.
Okay, then on the Wickham property,
Is there a way for a casual observer to poke their nose on the property?
yeah, anybody's
Yes.
welcome to go up
You
there.
can't see it from Baldwin Hill Road, can you? You have to go up.
No, it's
You can
off of,
see it.
Yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah, I think if you have a Jeep or something, or four-wheel drive, you just stay to the left, because the spring is running off down the right-hand
It's
side.
77.
Yeah,
Yes.
77, you
And
can't
you
miss it,
could-
there's cones
So
there.
what we did was we parked on Baldwin Hill Road as
Right.
far off as we could, and then walked it.
There's a bunch of new stone that's been dropped for the driveway. It's kind of
It's really
steep.
obvious, you can see.
I hope, hopefully it'll,
Yeah, it's below the, what zoning
I'm
requires.
sure, I'm
But,
sure,
yeah.
but you can't miss it, and
It
there's
is.
cones,
Right.
yeah.
It is steep, I know, I was surprised.
I was
that it's
too.
So far up, yeah.
But I think that also might be just because that new rock is so bright, like
Yeah.
once it's all graded. It
Yeah,
might
and
not
then
be as
it gets,
bad.
it'll get paved.
Yeah.
and it'll
But
be
then when
fine.
you go up there and it's
It's a nice
fairly,
level spot.
yeah, it's level and it just feels like a good place for a house to be.
Yeah, and, as the realtors would say, stunning views only when the leaves are gone, but perhaps we can portray the spring running down the driveway as the proverbial babbling brook, which usually comes into play. Some annoying water. So any other questions, anything on that? If not, then let me update Wickham. So I think we'll just check the minutes. So the engineer working on this, Todd Parsons and Haley Ward, had worked up a first concept of this, which was about 8 units. And he had not at that point done a workup based on using 830G or the new multifamily regulations that were enacted by the zoning commission. So we asked him to go back and redo the plan based on, both of those, 830G and or the new multifamily regulations. So also since then, I had filed a request for service with the Aquarian Water Company because well, it used to be the old Judy Water, but the line that goes from Bell Hill to the Green goes through the property. And because we're on a public water supply, we have to, use them unless they can't supply the water. So they essentially said they could give us enough water to probably do about, I think around, come out about 13 units, 24, 26 bedrooms, something like that. So the concept plan for this, just based on the water availability, is going to be around 13 units, I would say.
Those are all single family?
No, these would all be apartments.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's what the plan is here. So we're still,
If the water, if the capacity exceeds the water supply, could a well be drilled as a supplement?
well, here, the regulations are, if you're on a public water supply, like, so where I live, I'm on that system. And so I had, because they were struggling, back before this got to Aquarian, the company was very poorly run and there was times when we were short of water, we ran out. So I tried to get a well drilled and they denied it because I'm on a public water supply. So, I mean, that area is a source of tremendous water. I mean, there's springs. And also the new name of it is Judea Springs. That's the new name. And I mentioned, we had some, not controversy, but some other people at the Housing Trust that thought about it. So the way I reconciled it, they wanted to name John Boyer and John Millington. So I told them, having had to study the Bible in college, that the only apostle that was from Judea was John. And I thought because both their names were John, that we, that was appropriate, I don't-
Yeah.
I don't know if that really covered anything, but I
So
got
it's
some
official
facts.
So it's official now, so from now on, and we just refer to
Can we
that as
refer to
Judea
Judea
Springs?
Springs project?
And then Judea, so I mean, this was Judea Parish before they broke away from the Congregational Church in Woodbury. That was the mother church. So anyhow, that was, everybody thought that was a great name.
So can we refer to it now?
Yes, that's what I did for the newsletter.
Okay.
Ted had asked me to do an update on the project, sort of like what I'm doing here, so I listed it as 77 Baldwin Hill Road and then Judea Springs.
Okay,
So that's that. So we've been looking at, we had a conversation, our project meeting with David Berto, Lindsay Larson and Jocelyn Ayer about the zoning on this. So we're looking at the zoning, which we have two options here. There's 1312, which is a nonprofit, which we use for all the other projects we've done, which is very vague and doesn't really have too many marking points. And then the new multi-family regulation. So we're gonna have to continue that conversation. Trying to think what else on there. The legislature ended their session June 4th at midnight, so they put, I think, for this year coming up about 400 million into reflects the trust and the time to own, so there should be some money available for us to go after, so we're gonna work on that. I'm trying to think if there's anything.
the sooner you apply for something that,
Yeah.
Does that give you a
I think
benefit?
We wanna move this forward pretty quickly,
Yeah.
with what we have, so. At our project meeting on the fourth Wednesday, I think we'll make a decision as to which, in terms of the zoning application, which one we're gonna go under, and then, start putting together all the information, so we'll need to get, Todd will have all the work done for septic, we need to get approval from the Housatonic Valley Health District. We have the water. I'll have to work on the driveway permit with Jimmy and Kevin.
we have that, or you have to do
No,
that?
those are things that we'll need to put together in terms of going forward on the zoning. We really don't have anything impact on the wetlands, but there are wetlands on the property, so we'll have to. And that's all been delineated and marked, so. We'll start putting together all that information, then hopefully get a plan, finalize the plan, and then submit the application to zoning.
Yeah,
Trying to think, I don't have any questions, or if I think I'm missing
well,
something.
Michelle and I did take a little ride up the road, just looking at it. And you can do that, you can do that too.
Yeah, you can.
Have you been there? No,
No,
so there's a chain,
But you can just take
but
it
you
off.
can
the
take
thing.
it off the chain and you can drive up the road. What?
You can drive up in there.
You can.
Yeah. And if there's any teenagers on this, don't even think about going up there and having a party.
Wear your boots, though, there's a lot of poison ivy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, so that seems to be, from what we were looking at, it seemed to be a great place to have this. And it didn't seem like it would impact the neighbors.
It's not
I
really
don't think
visible.
I don't think anybody's gonna be able to see it,
No, you can't.
except
see-
if you drive into it.
Yeah, you won't see it driving by it. And I don't think the neighbors, because it's pretty heavily wooded, so.
It's, and the buildable parts are deep in, so
Right,
not out front, so I think, and we were trying, looking around, I couldn't see neighbors, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it'll end up. A substantial portion of the 30 acres will be essentially kept as open space.
Yeah. Yeah,
So that really is a benefit to.
to the people who are living there,
people that live
and
there.
also the surrounding people,
Right, yeah.
neighbors.
So that's about all I can remember, but any questions or anything else you can think of?
I have an unrelated question,
An unrelated,
yes, really.
is it related to Wickham?
No, it's a housing trust question.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do it,
Yeah,
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure everyone had their questions answered about
I'll
Judea
stay
Springs.
here until you tell me.
You mentioned the legislature, and I was just wondering if there's been any movement on the congressional spending money that we got? I haven't seen it.
Yes, so let me update that too. So what happened, it was being administered through the HUD office in Washington DC, which essentially has been devastated by, Doge. So they transferred the administration of it to the Hartford field office. So they've been in contact with me and Dave Berto. So we're actually, assembling all the information that needs to be put together on that, in order to get the grant. Now, the difficult part of this is that this is goes back almost 2 years.
Yeah,
So we just had a very major expense there. We had a problem with water tanks that were corroded, so we just had to do what's about $25,000 worth of work, which of course we don't have all the money for, but we can't be reimbursed from the congressional designated funds. In other words, anything that you do prior to actually getting the money you can't get reimbursed for, so. Which is crazy. I mean, we figured we'd had this money 2 years ago, and that was one of the projects that was gonna be done. So we're gonna have to struggle to find some money to pay that bill. That's my next career move next week, is to see what I can do.
out of the housing trust.
Yeah, somehow, borrow the money or do something, but it's very frustrating that,
It is.
yeah, it's 2 years down the road and. The things that we had budgeted to do are now not lasting 2 years.
Yeah,
And we have to do them. We can't leave people without water.
Does,
Wow.
and David Berto or that department in Hartford don't have any, advice on how quickly that money will
Well,
be released?
Here's the way it works with HUD, having dealt with them for 18 years, is they go at their own speed. And the problem with, and this is one thing where, you don't like Elon Musk and the whole idea, but when you have an organization where there's maybe 7 to 8 layers where you have in HUD, no one makes a decision because they don't have to. They're not authorized to make a decision, so they just pass it, each one passes it up. I mean, all the senior housing I did, it was the last one I did in Hartford. I was 4 years in. They sent me a letter saying, we're giving you $4.6 million. It took me 4 years to get it. And you're dealing with one person, they can't make a decision, they're not authorized. You gotta go to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, and pretty soon, you have to hide your belt and shoelaces. And the cost of that project went up $1.6 million
wow,
by the time I got the money that they gave me. And I had raised privately, almost $4 million.
wow.
And, those people are going, well, Bill, we gave you $4 million.
I know.
What the hell's going on here? And so,
Very
in the end, we had to do some politicking with the governor to get
Get the money
$1.6 million.
released.
It's very frustrating. I think Linda Gomez was telling me that we are owed bridge money, the town from 5 or 6 years ago, they closed it out. There's still 10% that they're holding and they haven't closed it out. It's very hard to manage.
The problem at the
municipal
state and
money.
local level are you have, you want an organization that from the bottom to the top, it doesn't go more than 3 people. So that things get done.
Yeah,
And when you have layers that go 6, 7, 8 people, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
Because they can't, the ones below are not authorized to make a decision, and it's why am I wasting my time in the deal?
yeah.
Frustrating.
But I don't say that because then they can.
Then they won't get the money.
They can drag it out even longer.
Yeah, right?
So, anyhow,
All
Okay,
right, thank you. I was just wondering, I hadn't
Okay.
heard it,
Yeah,
I haven't
I-
seen an email. on
yeah, I
pages.
say, I'll copy you on these emails. that come in.
Okay.
But we have,
Sometimes I was for a while, cause I was on
Well,
the
they-
original application, but
no, I'll double check and make sure you
Okay.
get those, but it's in progress. We have to have, we applied for community development block grant funds. So what you have to do with this is very similar to that. You have to, have the architect come out and certify that these things are broken and need to be fixed and et cetera, take pictures. And so that's in progress.
great.
is there anything that our commission can do to move
I
it
mean,
along?
you-
No,
I mean, what you're doing is tremendous. I mean,
Okay, I mean, just-
we would not be where we are in any of this without your support and, whether it's, financially or, influencing folks here in town to understand that, you know, that the town has an affordable housing plan for 30 houses in
Yeah.
2027, and, you know, let's get on the stick, and I think you guys have done just a wonderful job of that, so.
So I know that you probably want to go home.
I never go home. I rent it out my bedroom, that's it.
No, I just want to say that later on, we're going to be talking about, the community block party.
Yeah,
And,
I'll stay, I don't,
and,
you know, the lawn is now like, it's no more June. I figure I need a couple of days of the sun before, you know, to really be able to.
I know.
It's gotta dry out,
Okay,
so I'll be happy to stay and let you go on.
Okay.
Shut up.
we don't have too much, so then, update on the request made by the selectmen, made of the selectmen to call a town meeting, that hasn't been called yet. To expend the 330,000 from the Affordable Housing Fund for the Wickham property. So we need to get that going,
Yeah,
and,
I spoke with Jim about that. So we have these Board of Election things, Board of Education. That's requiring 2 special meetings this month. The Wake Board ordinance for Lake Warringmug is also a hot topic.
Say that again, the what,
Wake
Wakeboard.
board ban for Lake Warmog. It's an ordinance that's being passed in Warren and Kent and Washington. That also requires a town meeting, so there's a lot, but they have not forgotten. And I keep pestering,
so. Has Jim said that they can't put 2 of those things on one meeting? It's too much?
well, they're not gonna add it to the Board of Ed.
No, I know
meetings.
that, yeah.
And I think they were waiting to see how things went in Warren and Kent. It might not be great to put both of those big
Okay.
items on the same town meeting, because
Okay.
it drew a lot of people, so,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So there we are, so we're just gonna continue. To wait for that to happen, and hopefully the town will see the wisdom of allowing us to just expend the money as the needs
Yeah,
come up.
that would.
As the needs come up, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it would simplify the process.
certainly would. Okay, we had the meeting with the LCCHO, what is that, Litchfield County Center for Housing Opportunity. I think I finally got it.
You know,
I think,
I trip on it all.
It's a tough acronym for you.
There should, you know, there should be some shorter version of.
so we had that meeting, you know, you were
Yes, we
there.
meet, we have
And
our project meetings,
we, once a month,
yeah, 4th Wednesday.
and, Lindsay and Jocelyn are terrific. I mean, Lindsay is so organized,
Yeah.
and she always gets everything down. She takes notes and she gets things going.
Yeah, we
She
should
keeps
note
us-
in your minutes how helpful they are in
Yeah,
terms of moving both these projects
she
forward.
is,
Agreed.
they're very, very helpful. Yep. Next thing, the update on the budget request, that was passed. We got 350,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
that
was
was great.
included, so we
The whole
have
amount.
that, for me,
The whole
The
amount.
whole.
Yes.
Oh, great.
so that's a good thing. The next thing, the multifamily housing regulations still are not on the zoning. You know, not online, but the zoning, but the rest of the,
Well, I did download it from online, and I don't know how I did.
you
that.
I
did?
sent, no, I emailed them to
Oh, maybe
everybody.
you sent it to me.
I
That's
sent
what-
them, and then
yeah.
just today, because I was looking through some of my notes and other people had asked for them. So what I did is I pulled out, 13.12 is now the new multifamily,
Right, yeah,
and
right.
13, I think
1315 is the old,
is the
or the one that's
affordable
still
house,
there.
nonprofit.
right,
But, so 1312, I pulled it out and created a PDF of just the multifamily so that I didn't have to send the entire zoning regs. And I've spoken with Jay Hubblebank multiple times. That, you know, the new company that they've hired to house the regulation, it doesn't seem like it should be that complicated, but for whatever reason it is.
Yeah, 'cause
So
that-
they're still not online.
and that's what happened with the engineer, he said, well, I never saw those, and I went, what do you mean you never saw them?
It's very frustrating, and I shared that story with Jay. Yeah, they know I was not happy about that. So I have a PDF of just the multifamily regs that I'm happy to share with anybody. I did share them with Todd. As soon as
Yes.
that meeting was over, I shared them with
Yeah,
everybody.
right,
And gave the page numbers in the, 150-page document, or whatever it was, so.
Talk to the guy who's scoping that out for the Judea Springs.
yeah, and
Yes.
actually, the one good thing in those regulations, because I've reread them a couple of times, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah,
But under the old zoning regulations, you have to do residential density, they have a form. And the residential density for that 30 acres is 8 units of housing. But under the 1312, the new multifamily regulations, if you use that, the residential density is 3 times that, so we could do under that regulation 24 units. So, but we're restricted by the water thing, but that's one of the good reasons for using 1312.
I think 1312. I think they said a max of 20 units on a town road and 30 on a state road.
Yeah, so that would get us up to 20 units
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Whereas with the other one, we'd be stuck at 8.
Right.
Okay, so according to our minutes, Michelle, you were gonna send a request to the selectmen for the down payment
Yes.
assistance, and
So
did they act on that?
They approved it, so I have been in contact with the Housing Development Fund, HDF, that oversees that, and so what we have to do is just update that amount on the service agreement, and they're working on drafting that right now, so
Okay,
it is approved, it's just, we gotta sign the paperwork on the service agreement. I put drafts of the new down payment assistance flyer on the table there for you guys to all look at, because I figured we'd want the new amount in time for the block party, so if you could
Yes.
just look
Okay.
and approve that, I'll get some printed up quick before the.
approve the,
You
flyer?
right there, Judy, it's in your.
which
pile.
one?
Nope, the one with the house on it, the blue and yellow.
Okay, yes, okay,
So just make sure.
so,
it's-
all right, so. Okay, so
Up to 20,000, yeah.
up
It's
to
up to
20,000,
And we have enough left earmarked for 2 more. And if that gets expended, then we would need to. Have a town meeting.
Right.
To earmark, because that's a use outside of the original ordinance, so
right, okay,
there's money in the fund, but it is
but at
not.
least that's good for somebody that really would need it.
Oh, yes, and yeah, right, and because the price of housing has gone.
Yeah,
The
and
20,000 just was more in line with what
Right.
other towns are doing. And CHAFA, some of the CHAFA down payment assistance programs
Right,
as well.
okay, and so, the next is planning for the housing commission, it's new business, at the community block party from 5:30 to 8:30. Can any of you be present during that? I will be there.
Where is that?
Well, it's, I don't know,
So have you signed up for a table, or did you?
oh,
want
do
me
I need to do that? I will do that, I mean,
Okay,
Do I
it's
do
through
that
the
to the-
WBA, so I can, I wasn't sure.
you wanna do it, or
Um,
you want me to do it?
doesn't matter.
Okay,
But it's an online form,
okay,
so I'll fill it out, but I'll
Okay.
put you as the contact.
okay,
I am sorry to say I have a conflict.
oh, dear,
I can be there. I'm pretty sure Miranda.
I'm so glad at least 2 of you can, because I am already working at the Arts Council table and EDC, I've gotta figure that out as well.
Yeah.
So,
So it's the 20th?
20.
So
It's a Friday.
I think some of our members could do.
Yeah,
We have the joint banners. or-
yeah, we're gonna have the joint banner,
so
I'm
I-
gonna
I-
make I'm gonna make my
Cookies,
house
the cookies
cookies.
again?
Oh, yeah. That was you.
Yeah,
No, yeah, that we can cover some of that too.
and we'll have, all this information,
Yes, that'd be great.
and flyers, so. Speaking of that, there's a flyer there that, Lindsay put together for the housing trust. And, she said it was a 2x3, although the resolution, anyway, I made it a flyer. You should all,
this one,
yep, that one. And I didn't know, I can make paper copies, or I didn't know if we wanted to make a larger one, we'd still have our, the whole spiel, the tablecloth, the two.
There's
two by
an email,
three.
she said about 2x3 posters. It's-
Yeah, is she gonna make some? Do
Well,
you
I
want
don't-
us to make one?
I saw that on my email, let me go back and look at it, I thought
Okay.
she was gonna make one for, but maybe not, I don't. I'll follow.
I thought you said use this if you would like to make one, and I don't know.
I don't know, I just was CC'd on it, and so I printed it so you could all see what it is. I'm happy to make copies for the table. I can try to get a 2x3 made in time
You know
for the
what?
block party.
Send me a reminder tomorrow and I'll call her, because I have to call her on a couple other things, so I'll just say thank you for that offer and we'd like to accept it if you could do it for us, something like that.
Okay. I'll look back at the,
So at one point, Michelle, you said you had somebody that might be able to do those posters? Do you
yeah.
still have that person or?
Yes, and so there are two she since then joined the Arts Council and worked on an Arts Council project, but the housing project is still on her radar. She was very excited about it. We won't have it in time for the block party,
won't.
but we'll keep, but we'll
Okay.
keep. We'll, as soon as we work on that, we have a draft.
Yeah, well,
I'll bring
I'm
it back
wondering
to
if,
you all.
if this can be made a lot bigger.
Yeah,
I don't know, I
so
mean, I don't know how to do that.
I do, and
I mean, like, if we brought this down to Staples, could we have them make it into a big?
Well, wanna send them a digital copy. I'm happy to do that, cause I
Okay.
have people that I work with.
Okay,
Printers that have our nonprofit. On file, so they don't charge the sales tax. So we just have to decide, what we would want it printed on, like the 2x3 poster, the corrugated plastic that we have all the quotes on, the two that we usually have. I could try to have that one made into one
Okay.
as well. Would you like that?
do you think that would be good?
I think that'd be better.
It's a very
Yeah,
colorful,
I know, and I think,
eye grabbing.
and having it bigger,
Okay, yep,
bigger is
I'd be
better.
happy to do that.
well, those postcards that Janet always does, the bigger ones, those are nice and they're easy to hand out to people as well, but they're bigger than what you're saying, I thought. You know, the ones that we.
Yes, I do,
I don't
And how
know.
hard is
but
they're,
What are you, bigger
So-
than 2 feet by 3 feet?
oh, no, I'm talking about postcards.
Okay.
And they're like about this big, right? And I noticed that at our last event, like people were taking them off the table and they're easy for people to keep rather than a flyer, but I wonder how difficult that would be to get on postcards.
That information on a postcard. Could probably cut it in half and make it front and back, so that it would be like a half size.
That's how, I think that's how we did them. They're
Would
about
be like
that
this.
size.
I have to look and see,
But it might be-
if she sent me a PDF. I don't actually have Adobe to manipulate it, although I could screenshot it, I could try to figure it out. Or I could just have her, I could ask her what she created it in, so she could send it to me, so I could manipulate it.
yeah,
So I would suggest,
I'm not sure that people are gonna wanna have a postcard with this, I don't know,
I don't know, I
what do you
mean,
think?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I was.
you know what young people do these days, if we have it made in a 2x3 poster, if they're interested in it, they take a
Take a
picture on
picture
their
of it.
phone.
Right.
I try to hand
Right,
people
right.
cards and they're like, no, I
Yeah.
just wanna take a picture,
Right.
Yeah,
so,
and that doesn't cost us anything.
Right.
agreed, agreed. So I'd be happy to make that poster, and then Judy,
And then also have some of these, we'll have some of these,
yeah.
yeah,
I can
We
print
could
a
do a QR
handful.
code too, that would give,
the what?
sometimes the kids will use a QR code, they can take a picture of that and it gets them to the website or all this information. that
Which
the other
we
kids
have, so what do we have, there's a QR code.
What do you have to do to get those?
Well, there was one on the,
There's one that takes you to the application For the,
Oh, not on this one, though.
there's not on that one. Alright, I'll try to find the one
Oh,
with a
there's
QR
this
code.
one, yeah.
Does that have a QR code?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pre-application.
It's at the bottom, yep. Yours doesn't have it.
Do you have
Mine
to
doesn't have
register or
it.
something to get those, or what do
To
you?
get a QR code,
Yeah,
you
what do
can, they're QR code creators, but in order to read it, all you have to do is hold your phone up
Yeah,
to it.
I've done that at.
Okay.
Somewhere.
Nah, there's just creator, it's not that hard, I've created them, it's been a little while, but, we have. A QR code on the housing trust pamphlet that we did. That takes you to the housing trust website, we have a QR code. On one of the flyers that takes you to the affordable housing plan on the town website. All that stuff I've got in the bucket, so maybe we should, Judy, maybe you
Oh,
should
well, let's-
come
All right. we'll
sometime
figure
next
it.
week. And we'll review what we have
And,
to make
and how
sure
to
we have,
display it.
and yes, and get all the holders and everything
Okay.
all together, so I can give it to you.
Okay,
And we'll be ready to go, and what's it called, a tripod, easels
yeah,
for the displays, all that good stuff,
okay.
okay?
Any,
I have a couple of concerns.
about
Briefly,
this?
No,
No, I know, I was gonna ask if there were anything, is there any? So this is for the community block party, we've got that taken care of, you're coming,
Yeah.
maybe we can get Charlie to come or Carol, but you'll be there.
Yeah.
Maybe-
What day is it? It's Saturday?
It's a Friday, the
Oh, yeah.
20th.
Yeah, that's good. I can, I did.
And it's not as long as the,
Oh, the other one.
it's not as
The
long
harvest.
as the
Yeah.
harvest fest,
Okay.
it's 5:30 to 8.
That was a mojito issue, so that. Shorter the better.
Yeah, it's kind of like Holiday in the Depot, but in the summer.
We'll have a runner,
Bands
we'll have a
and
runner at the
things
table
new,
for the
it's not-
Well,
mojitos.
the good thing is I only live a half a mile away. I can crawl home. The worst thing that could happen to me is someone steps on my knuckles. That's it.
Okay,
All right, so
Alright,
we'll review that, but I will have a 2x3
Okay,
made of.
and if you have any further suggestions, let me know, to make it more, to attract people
Drop
to the table. No. Okay, so I know, that you do have a concern, about rentals, right? Were you gonna bring that up?
And, I just wanted to update a little bit on this newsletter that
Oh, yes, okay,
Yes.
has been in the works for a while. It's very, as a draft, it's very attractive. Ted just seems to have this idée fixe about how to do it, and it's interesting talking to other communicators in the region who are really dead set against a kind of big splashy thing, but rather low cost, redundant reminders about the need for housing. Bang, bang, and just keep at it. So I don't know, but it looks like we're close to, and Michelle, thank you so much for that stuff on habitat. We sort of realized at the 11th hour that all this wonderful stuff that's going on up there on the hill, that is part of the goal
of course.
realization, and
Right.
terribly important. So
Do
I
you think
submitted
that-
2 articles to Ted, and whether it's going to exceed 8 pages, I don't know, and whether Ted has rounded up all the money to pay for this.
Is it gonna be ready by the 20th?
Pardon?
Will it be ready by June 20th?
I don't think so. It's not signed.
So.
We've been wanting it
Wendy,
to
I
be.
just wanna, and I can look, but the commission has money. And. It would be nice to make sure we use it by June 30th, because then we lose whatever we didn't use.
Has Ted approached,
He is not, but I would need invoices, even if it's just an invoice from the printer, even if it's like in progress but hasn't happened yet. You can also do the postage, with the post office. Like I do the town newsletter 5 times a year, so we can get that in
I
the
will
works.
get on
if-
that tomorrow immediately and get back to you, just. to
Yeah,
get the
Because
layout.
we put money in the commission operating to help with stuff, you know, it's for printing signs and.
But it
Whatever,
really looks professionally, have you gotten the draft of the?
I've gotten some
Yeah,
parts of it,
yeah,
yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I got a draft, I had to, I guess Judy and I are on the
Yeah,
front.
right, you were on the
So I
front.
had to reduce my thing by 75 words, which I did yesterday, and then I
That's a lot.
did a project update. But I think, you know, this will be good in terms of, it's the first thing that kind of connects all this together.
Yeah,
But I think what Woody said is that you may want something that's more redundant and maybe not as large. But you know, once people are aware from this newsletter of what's going on, what we need is
Yeah.
you don't need something that's more time consuming to produce and, you know.
Well, I
think
tried to,
this-
when the selectmen are to do some blasts for the commissions, I try to submit them something
Right,
every month.
yeah.
So
And
that's
I
one
think,
thing,
yeah, and I think we'll just see what, you know, what the response is to what's here, but
yeah.
I mean, it looks real splashy and good, there's, you know, it's.
So, but Ted is leaving
He
town.
goes to Nantucket for the
Does,
summer.
yeah,
I
is
think
there
you-
somebody else that's working with him?
Well, I think he's rushing to get this done, because I guess we need to call him.
That would explain the 3 calls and 2 emails to my office.
Yeah, he
from
has-
Ted About
I think
caption
he's
for that
coming
picture.
right down the home stretch.
Yeah, so.
But there is a
who's-
crucial layout guy
Who's doing
whose name I
design?
didn't recognize.
Larry Gendron,
Yes,
or his son. And then there was something about the son something had come up. I saw in some communication that Ted had sent, but he said that the son was now putting together whatever the formatting is, or
Whose son?
Larry Gendron's son.
Oh,
So I think Ted realizes he's gotta get this done before he goes to Nantucket. So-
Alright. So,
We'll need to check.
maybe we should talk with Ted and figure
Definitely.
out how, you know, where it is in the works and how to get that in the next 2 weeks.
yeah, if we could
Invoice.
possibly get that done, whatever, you know, whatever he has, maybe give it to somebody else to do the final push.
sure.
Okay, so I know that you had brought to my attention the concern about rentals. And that we should be looking at that.
Short-term rentals,
Mm,
yeah, I think, I stumbled across it, where I found it, maybe the New York Times. That the city of Barcelona has banned
I read that, yeah.
Airbnbs, all 10,000 of them.
wow.
Yeah.
I've stayed in one of them.
Because it's
It's a
too
good thing you
expensive
did
to live
that.
there. All the workers are leaving in droves. So it seems like a radical kind of apocalyptic thing to do. But it did get me thinking, I don't know, I'm looking at you, Michelle, but are there, in our records in the town, we must know how many Airbnbs we have and.
So we don't know exactly, this issue has come up with zoning, there has been one house in particular on the lake that became an issue. And enforcing any kind of regulation we come up with is a challenge, you know, the enforcement of it. I would ask that before, if the housing commission deems it's an issue they wanna pursue. I've also had realtors reach out to me, knowing that it might come up and having some kind of language that it's not an outright ban, but it does.
Well, maybe
Kind of
requiring
neat.
some licensing.
Well,
Offer some regulation,
Well,
that's all
it's more about like the timing, because we have people in town who rent their homes. Periodically, they go away, they rent their home, so it's a source of income for them. Or businesses, there's that company Posh Pads that owns houses for this purpose. And that's a long-standing and hasn't really been an issue. So I think there are ways to regulate or or regulate it without banning it. And other communities in Connecticut have done this, so I think articulating the concerns that, that we have, because it does create. a
Well, it may
housing
be
shortage.
naive on my part, but if there were, say, a ceiling of some sort on short-term rentals, where would, people who own capacious residences, turn, to make some income? Could they offer something more affordable, say, that would turn
Yeah,
into?
so I'm just doing some historical background on it. So, you know, and I had my practice law for 20 years or whatever. But I was doing, this goes back to the 1990s, is that I was doing leases for houses in the summer, you know, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, $20, $30, $40,000 a month.
Right.
Right? So you know, when I ran New Samaritan and Elderly Housing Management, I had to have a broker's license to run the company. So I went and got a real estate broker's license, but I'm not a real estate broker. I mean, I said that. But what came with it was the multiple listing service, and which I kept just so I could see what's going on. And when you look for rentals in Washington, most of them are 9-month rentals, because what they do is they can make enough money renting that house in the summer that they can get a teacher or someone that they don't have to, you know, spend, but they're only there for 9 months. And I know,
Oh, the teacher's only there for 9 months.
yeah,
And
right,
then the owner comes for the summer.
right, well, or the owner rents it out, they rent it out in the summer for
Oh,
$40,000-$50,000, and they made, so at some point, and I try to follow all the minutes and the things in the Board of Assessment Appeals. There's one particular individual who seems to own a whole bunch of these. And it's like a business, and what he's saying is that the problem is that, you know, and this is what the crisis was with affordable housing going back to Dick Sears in 1980 and Jack Boyer and that, is that it's an attractive place for people to come in the summertime, or, you know, and they come, and so these people can make more money renting it in 2-3 months. And if they didn't rent it for the other 9 months, they still made tons of money.
yeah.
But those are homes, a lot of those homes that I've seen that I know are summer rentals, they're modest places. I mean, they're nice, fixed up inside, but they would be small houses that someone, I think Dave Workhoven's old house.
Oh,
And
is that,
ended up as a
really?
B&B, I think, or something.
I
And in the initial, I think it was,
maybe.
because someone told
Well,
me that.
I know it was finally.
Great Barrington does have regulations in Massachusetts. So that might be someplace we could start.
Didn't we?
I mean, you know what they've
didn't we
done?
Meet with somebody that
That's-
shared their
that's-
regulations for like a few months
I
ago?
guess we did.
Down in Mystic, Stonington, where my brother Jeff is, he and my brother Ron bought an old house here in the center of town that they rent out, but you can't rent out for less than 30 days. You can't do like weekends or a week. You have to, you know, it's gotta be 30 days. And I think that's something that the zoning commission really, because that is part of the problem that we have here in terms of getting rentals.
Sure.
That they can make more money, you know, renting it out for a week or a weekend.
I think what, I'll have to dig out the language that was shared with me, but the idea was that to allow it to happen a couple of times, but not, you know, no more than X number of days a year or weeks in a year, so that people aren't buying properties solely to
For that
have it as
purpose.
an Airbnb, right? So that I forget exactly what the wording is, but it's definitely a topic that I think we should educate ourselves about and maybe try to get ahead of before it's more of a problem than it is.
Some of the towns I've seen is that where they allow the rental, is that the owner has to be in the house. In other words, they can't just rent you the house, the owner's got to be living in the house while they're renting it to you. Which makes it, a lot of people, you know, because that's what a lot of the B&Bs were. You know, Gretchen Barker used to have. a
Right,
B&B.
well, and that is, yeah, bed and breakfast is different than an
Right, but it's,
Airbnb.
you know, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah,
But that would help alleviate some of the housing shortage.
But that's something we can look
Right.
maybe
yeah,
forward
it's
to.
definitely.
Great Barrington has some
I think it was Great Barrington.
There's in Connecticut recently, like in the last 6 months, has an all-out ban.
I thought Ken.
All out ban.
Yeah, they've done down around, where Quinnipiac and all that, the University down in New Haven,
Oh.
where these kids are renting these places and having big parties. They banned, I think a lot of those communities have banned the rentals because of how it disturbs the neighborhood.
Oh,
Well, and it's not a ban on rentals, it's a
No.
ban on short-term.
Yeah, short-term rentals, right, yeah.
okay. Well, we can consider that.
Yeah,
Okay, is there anything else? Do our guests have any questions or concerns that they would like us to address? Andrew or Tijuana?
I
Okay.
guess I just have one question. This is Andrew. Speaking on 13-12-6, I think part of it is maintaining, the architectural integrity of a neighborhood. And when I look at several of the developments from the trust, their property condition rating is about average. And when I look, call it 61, 60, 63, 64, 67, 69, 72 Wickham, they're good to very good. So I wonder how you maintain the integrity of the neighborhood when sort of past developments are, call it
Well, if you look at our 3 properties, 16 Church Street, we spent $4 million on that property. That property, the interior of those properties are nicer than any condominium in most houses in Washington. Peter Talbot was the architect, and those places fit in and blend in architecturally beautifully with the neighborhood. And we had a lot of issues with the neighbors on other things, but architecturally was no concern. Dodge Farm is not visible from anywhere. So you're never going to see Dodge Farm unless you drive in there. So, from an architectural standpoint, it reflects the same houses that are on Dodge Farm Road. If you go in there, you tell me that those are different than any of the houses in the neighborhood, which I would tell you is not true. And Riverwoods, which is our senior housing, which is on property that I donated, that is so far into the woods, you can't see that from the
No.
road. So architecturally, that again is traditional New England architecture. When you're trying to provide housing for people, there's a cost factor. When you start out in a first home, you don't get a fancy, architect designed house. That's the reality of it. And, if you want to have young people living in your community, you've got to make some compromises. But when you can't see the places that we build from the road, how can you be offended?
So Andrew, do you live close to the Wickham property? Are you concerned about that for yourself?
My father does, and it was just a curious question on my own. So
Okay,
I appreciate all the work you guys are doing. Just had a question.
and we certainly would take, the architectural integrity of it
Yeah.
into consideration.
Yeah, we're not, it's all in the eye of, whatever you think is great architecture. If we did Frank Lloyd Wright stuff here, people would be pissed off.
I would say though that some of the multifamily housing that has been built in the northwest corner recently,
Those are good.
is really beautiful up
Yeah.
at Sarin Village.
They
It's
do
all
like a
very-
farmhouse style.
Yeah.
Yes,
It looks like a big house, but it's actually 4 units, so it doesn't look like an apartment building, it looks like a big farmhouse, but it happens to be, 2 doors and an up and a down, so it's 4 units, that looks like a big house. And with dormers and very nice, and Church Street too was the most recent one. Dodge Farm was built a while ago, and that's why we have a $1 million grant.
Well, and
To
the
spruce
reality is that the median price for a home in Washington is about $1.9 million if you look at the MLS. So if you own a home in Washington, I don't care what it's next to, you're wealthy,
Yeah.
you're well off.
yeah. Maybe for this community, block party, we can have some pictures of
That's a good idea.
these other
The newer
projects,
stuff.
the new projects up in Salisbury.
Or, you know, what do people, you know, what is the overwhelming view of what's New England architecture? What kind of buildings people wanna see? I mean, they wanna see capes and colonials, you know, what do they wanna see?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's all part of it. Certainly, you know, when we develop these properties, we've used architects who I believe have been sensitive to you know, the neighbors, and in fact, you know, on all three of the properties, none of the neighbors ever complained about the architecture. It was the fact that they were apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I misspoke and I apologize.
No, no, I think it's great
So-
to ask the question.
I don't care if there's a, you know, a Rossiter or whatever in the corner. It was just,
That's a little out of the budget.
so
Yeah,
hope to see you soon.
thank you so much for attending. We appreciate your being here and your input and your question. Maybe we'll see you at the community block party. Come and have a cookie.
Judy makes great cookies.
You know, something margarita. whatever.
Okay, is there anything else? Anybody else? Okay. Motion to adjourn, somebody? Henrietta, and second by Woody, and all in favor of adjournment at 6:30.
Feel like
Great. All right, well done, people.
Somehow we're gonna get through all this.